maybe I'm just not as ambitious as a lot of people. I don't know. Hello, Paul. Hello,
Hello.
Paul's people.
They all say hello back to you. Thank you so much for joining us, Buck.
Yes.
It's a pleasure to speak with you. Lots of new things to talk about. Obviously, you've had an incredible career, and we're going to chat about some of those stories too. But first of all, let's start with this thing over my shoulder. Your new single. Tell us a little bit about that, Buck.
It's a song that I got involved with through the Spirits Burning project, which is bringing the books of Michael Moorcock to music, setting it to music. And there's the third LP of that series. I was commissioned to write a song uh, setting the forward poem in the book to music, and the poem is called Dregs, and it was written by Ernest Dowson, who was a English poet in the 19th century, part of the Decadent school, and it's called Dregs, and it's a rather depressing story actually, but he had a short but I wouldn't say tragic, but maybe unhappy life. He died at age 32, and the poem basically is uh, what I saw as his take on his life, you know. And but the words struck me in a way that was really profound. So I told the Spirits Burning people that I would write the song, but I was going to do my own version as well as the Spirits Burning version, which is a collaboration with their musicians and Michael himself. I think he contributes vocally. So that's what I did, and it took a couple of years to fruition. I made a video, and I had to learn how to make a video. I'd never done that myself. That was a steep and gratifying journey. I think
Yeah, I bet.
it's a skill set that I probably will need, as most artists need to be video savvy these days. So anyway, it's on YouTube now. It's called "The End of Every Song," and I'm quite happy with it. And so far, the reaction's been really good.
Indeed, it has. You mentioned making the video, so you did that yourself, did you, with your own bare hands and your own technology use?
I did. I did. I enlisted John Rogers, who was a member of Blue Oyster Cult in the '90s and the late '80s, um, as my producer and director of the live video portion. Now, after John left Blue Oyster Cult, he went into television, and he's a TV director now, and he actually won an Emmy, which is a U.S. award for television. So he's done quite well.
That's
Yeah.
not a bad guy to have in your corner at all, is it? Absolutely.
No, no, he was a nice ally and a good friend.
Good stuff. And that single's out to listen to now. Is that the first single under your own name since your solo stuff in the early 80s?
Right, right. I did a LP for Portrait Records right before Fire of Unknown Origin, and that's the last thing I did on my own. Everything else has been in the umbrella of Blue Oyster Cult.
That's interesting. So have you never wanted to or tried your hand at branching out and doing something just under your own name? Has it never really appealed to you since then?
Uh, well, BOC's kept me busy, and maybe I'm just not as ambitious as a lot of people. I don't know. But yeah, I'm glad to get back to doing my own thing. You only have to please one person in that scenario, so it's good.
Very true. And let's just quickly touch on
Yeah.
that solo album, Flat Out, it was called. And it was 1982, I think it was, that came out. And originally you'd written Burning for You, which was obviously a big hit for Blue Oyster Cult, but you wrote that song for the solo album, didn't you?
Right. Yeah, that was initially intended for Flat Out. And Sandy Pearlman, our manager and mentor, convinced me to put it out as Blue Oyster Cult. So the band recorded it, and it was probably a good move. I think it probably reached a larger audience that way. And
a
it
big
was
hit.
very good for Blue Oyster Cult. So
Absolutely, it was. Yes,
yeah,
another big hit for the band. Something
yeah,
else to talk about. We mentioned Blue Oyster Cult is obviously another record that came out recently, Ghost Stories. Now, this is an interesting, wasn't it? Because it's not a new album; it's something that you've gone back to the archives, haven't you, and found some old recordings and used AI to help with it.
yes. It was based on pre-production recordings that George Duranius, who was our live sound mixer in those days, and he recorded the rehearsals. Some of it was done in his own space, and some of it was done in commercial rehearsal studios. And most of it was originally half-inch 8-track tapes. And George had retained those tapes over the decades, and some of them were just 2-track mixes that he had done. And when Frontiers Records was clamoring for some new product, we suggested, how about doing this? Because the band was aware of the tapes. I know George had started putting them up on YouTube and stuff like that. So um, they warmed to the idea. So we went to work with the tapes, and Richie Castellano, who's our second lead guitar player and utility genius, and he's he's uh, he's also quite the audio and visual guy himself. Um, he did the majority of the work there with Steve Shank, who was our manager and co-member of Blue Oyster Cult. So they used the modern AI tools, the same general concept of what Peter Jackson did with the Beatles
Yeah.
videotapes of the whatever that session was that they did. Same thing. You could basically pick out the elements and process them with modern tools, which is what we did. And all my performances on there are the performances from the day. I know
All the
there was
originals, yeah.
some of the tapes had deteriorated and had to be re-recorded and stuff, but it's basically songs that would have made a CD but didn't make a vinyl LP, because you were constrained to how much time you could have.
And what was it like listening back to those tracks? Because obviously you'd written them, you'd played them, but they didn't make the final album. So what was it like listening back to those songs now?
Well, since I had very little to do with the actual nuts and bolts of the production, to me, listening to that record is like listening as a fan,
Yeah.
because it's like a new record. It was like a lost Blue Oyster Cult record. Yes, I remember the songs, but it's been decades. So it was like a fresh record, and it was very very rewarding from that perspective.
And there's some interesting covers on there as well. Ones that you played live a lot as well. So tell us about those
Yeah.
tracks.
Yes, we covered the MC5 "Kick Out the Jams," which is also on a live record, and but this was a studio rendition. It was just done for the microphones basically, and the MC5 are just a memory now, but we wanted to honor that memory. They were really important, I think, to the story of music of the era, and I think we did it justice. And the other song is "We Got to Get Out of This Place," as recorded by the Animals, and of course, we had played that as a club band before we were recording artists, and always had an affection for it. And that also is on a live record, but this is again a studio version.
Fantastic stuff. And as we said, that's packaged together as Ghost Stories, and that's out now. So if you haven't checked it out yet, then where have you been? But definitely do check it out because it's well worth listening to.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah, it's streaming, so just needle drop it, just check it out because it's
That's
good
it.
stuff.